Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Good. So, you know what? I've seen Hotel Transylvania, a couple years ago, and I thought it was perfect. So, why did we want a sequel?
Well, I think, we realized we took a year or so off of it, and then we realized we kind of missed the characters. I think the characters were successful in the first one, and it was almost like an introduction into this new world of Dracula and the Mummy and Frankenstein. And so there were more stories to tell, and it's about a family, right? So I think we wanted to progress that story of a family.
Now, did the idea for a sequel already came up while you were making the first movie?
Yeah, towards the end, probably right about this time when we started doing press, everybody started talking about it. And I'm like, I'm not doing a sequel, I'm not doing it. But then, as you took a little time away from it, you start to miss it, And, but yeah, I think they were already starting, people, when they started to watch the movie, they started to realize there's something there.
Mm-hmm. And you personally, you miss the characters, you love the characters. I mean, which character you particularly love?
I mean, I like that we reimagined Dracula, into this new kind of crazy, chaotic character. So I thought there could be a lot more stories with him. Like even towards the end, I had all these little short ideas for the world that we kind of created.
So for the sequel, part 2, where are we taking the family now?
Well, we're really progressing. We've got Mavis and Jonathan get married, and they have a kid. And now the humans and monsters are coexisting, and Dracula has to find a place for himself in this new world and for his grandson. And the mystery is the grandson a vampire or is the grandson human? And so, everybody's pulling him in different ways, and we find out what happens.
Now, in a lot of animated films, when they do sequels, they always try to introduce new characters. Are we going to see newer characters in this one?
Yeah, our big new character is Vlad, which is really exciting because it's voiced by Mel Brooks, and it's Dracula's father. And so it's fun to see where kind of a really neurotic, interesting personality as Dracula comes from, and so we have his kind of a little backstory on him.
So is he going to be like the old school traditional type of Dracula? Because you mentioned before, it's like all these different types of pulling them in different directions.
Yeah, for sure. He represents what probably as we all know vampires to be. The crotchety, they hate humans. They maybe still drink a little blood, we don't know, And so he comes in and makes a big mess of things with Dragon.
So obviously the human elements for Adam is still in this film between Adam and Mavis.
Yeah, for sure. It's always, I think, the core of the first movie was a father-daughter relationship. And this one is the same. It's, Mavis is a mother now, how's she dealing with it? And Drac is now a grandfather, and so how's he dealing with it?
Now, what I love about your films and TV shows is that you always push the limits on animation. Are you going to try to do something different, or are you just going to go with the same formula that you had before? So
we're just we got a lot of the old crew back. So we're the first one was really trying to push CG into that kind of cartoony world, and so this we've kind of gotten there, and now we're making it better. We're pushing different things. We're trying different things, but yeah, it's about more of the same, but just we're more confident in it. We knew the first one worked. And so we're trying to push it a little further than what we did.
Are you also pushing the cast even further with humor and voices and all this kind of stuff?
Honestly, they're so good and so funny. We have like a plethora of great comedians, and so that part of it we always have. So I don't even have to push that.
So whatever works, right?
Exactly, right.
What about 3D? I mean, I remember you talked about being that Hotel Transylvania was your first feature film,
yes.
And it was also in 3D, and you talked about the difficulties. Now, this being your second feature film and a sequel, is it much easier the second time around?
It definitely is. I mean, for sure, I'm not, I know what I'm doing a little bit more. And 3D is really, the trick is, the 3D and the 2D movie are completely different. And so how do you make something for both? It's like making something for TV aspect, but widescreen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You give up so much. So it's just finding a balance, finding what works, what moments to enhance, when to hold back, and yeah, so it's definitely not as scary as the first time around.
I was really hoping that in the sequel, because with your Russian background,
right,
you may actually introduce a Russian monster that we all never heard of or something.
Where Vlad is actually a little, he's a little Transylvania old school, so he's got a little bit of him, and he's got a little bit of that in him.
Well, that'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So everything else is going to be, you're going to push it to the limit, animation, humor. So we're going to basically have a lot of fun with Hotel Transylvania again then.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of getting back into that world, and we spend definitely some time in the hotel, but we explore other areas. We go out, some fun things we do. We actually go to Johnny's hometown, and we get to meet his parents also, and so there's a lot more, it's like a much thicker world, more fuller world than in the first one, so I think you start to realize that their universe is a lot bigger than just the castle.
Oh, so they do get to visit other areas.
Yes, they do, for
Like-
sure.
Like where?
So they go to where Johnny's from, and they visit, how he grew up and kind of who he is to a degree, and so it's fun seeing, especially Mavis experience that is, a real human town for her.
Oh, so it's going to be a clash of two worlds.
That's right.
Let me talk about that. Do you have any other upcoming projects? I understand that you exited Popeye, so is that completely done?
For me, it is. I know the studio's still working on it, but for me, I finished what I wanted to say with it, and we kind of parted ways on that.
Even though it was an awesome screener from what I heard.
Yeah, we had it was like a great movie, and I think they saw what I was doing, and I think they just want to go a different direction. And it's, it's their, flipping the bill.
Yeah.
So it's their choice. So there's no hard feelings or any anger or anything like that. It's just, I was very true to the direction that I wanted to do, and they see it a different way.
But you're still on board with Sony Columbia Pictures for
Yeah,
that project.
absolutely, yeah. So we're working on Can You Imagine right now. It's early development, which is an original idea, and so everything's good.
Okay, and what is that movie going to be about? I heard it was something about a boy's imagination.
Yeah, it's basically, the story is kind of two parents, they have a baby, their life changes, and the boy isn't happy, and so he runs away into his imaginary world. And so now the parents have to go into his imagination, find themselves, and prove to their son that they could be a family together.
And this will be a full animated movie?
Fully animated, yeah.
What do you think, just in your opinion, what do you think of like these hybrid animated movies where it crosses into like the real world? Sort of like the SpongeBob that they...
Right. I think it's fun. I think nowadays that line is so crossed, I think it's totally acceptable. Roger Rabbit did it. And, there's so many movies that have done it. So I think it's, the blending of animation and live action is definitely the future, and it's been the past too. So I'm, I watched the SpongeBob movie and I was totally on board and no issues, So I think it's good.
Will you ever go towards a live animation movie or kind of a hybrid yourself?
Maybe. I think for me, my animation is so much more pushed than live action, so the two probably have a hard time meeting the way I like animation, but maybe in live action one day, I think if it's the right story, I'd definitely be into telling it in a different medium.
Great. And most of your career, you have been doing television shows. Will you ever go back? I mean, the last two projects was Hotel Transylvania.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of it, I always think so fondly of my TV days. I was very lucky, I was supported and we got to do creatively what we wanted, for almost 20 years. So I think I would go back if it's the right, the opportunity, but seeing a movie with an audience, and seeing that instant reaction is such a great, it's like if you show somebody a drawing and they go, wow, that's a great drawing, it's instant. Where in TV, we'd get, a 2.3. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's nice. And so you never get that feedback, especially in the early days, pre-internet, all that stuff. There was no communication with the audience,
Well, things are different now.
Yeah.
But isn't it a lot easier, more control over the TV than movies?
It is. I think TV is, the way I look at it is, it's all work, right? And it's all speed. Like what can you get done for the money? And in features, you've got kind of one shot and all the pressure is on you, and it's all about getting that one thing the best you can be. But it's one thing. And in TV, you get to, if you mess up a little bit, you get to try again. And so it's very different, and it's a different style of storytelling. But I've got some TV ideas too that I'm kind of excited about, and we'll see. The future is. I definitely see myself doing something else in television, sure.
How about this idea of taking Hotel Transylvania into a TV show? I noticed that they're doing that with a lot of different movies into TV shows. What have you thought of that? You did, right?
I've thought of it, but I've kept my mouth shut. I think like you said, I think people talk all the time about it, and I'm sure there's been conversations, but I've got so many other ideas to say, to communicate. You know, I kind of want to do an original, I think.
Well, I'm not going to push it because I know you're going to keep that lock and key and you're not going to tell me anyways.
That's right.
So let me wrap it up with one more question.
Yeah.
Out of Hotel Transylvania 2, which character do you love the most and why?
I think I really do. Well, I think there's two. I like Vlad, Drek's dad, because we did some really interesting stuff for the designs. And also, Vlad has these cronies, which are these kind of like creepy man-bat things. And we made them so over-the-top scary that they're really funny, you know. And I think, you know, we had a preview and they came off funny. And I think, and they're really fun, you know, because they're like these monsters and they're very cartoony, but at the same time they're kind of threatening. So I think those are kind of my favorite things.
Okay, terrific. Hey, thank you very much for this conversation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I look forward to